Live on SABC2 and SABC News on DSTV channel 404 from 2 p.m. Well, let's take you now to Parliament. We're joining Frances Hurd. She's live from Parliament with some more analysis ahead of the speech. Frances, hi there. The hot topics today, taxes, and where will that extra revenue come from should there be an increase?
There's definitely going to be an increase. Natasha, everybody's saying this budget will confirm that saying that the only things in life guaranteed, death and taxes. Certainly they're going to come. And we'll talk about taxes shortly. But first, let's look at the context. Devon was saying that not many winners in this budget, and some people concerned that a loser himself will be the finance minister. And the finance minister and his deputy have just held a press conference here in the Parliamentary precinct. So first, before we look at what's expected in the actual detail of the budget, let's go to Manalisi Dubase, our reporter here in Cape Town. You were there, and do you agree with me that previously the finance minister would really try and calm nerves and tone down the rhetoric about him being politically isolated, but he seems to be sort of accepting that and being quite open about the possibility of him leaving? Is that correct?
Francis, I said earlier that he was unusually frank this time around. I mean, a question that has been lingering in many people's minds was that if you talk about fiscal consolidation, if you talk about stabilizing our debt, will these policies stick even if, for argument's sake, he's removed next week, he and his deputy? And he was unusually frank. He said that's possible. They can change. Everything is possible. Somebody can come up, can come in and advise the president otherwise, which means it can advise the president that we can even go ahead with our nuclear, project. Those obviously will put a spanner in their works. But also, there's one thing that he was very frank about. Excuse me. He was frank about. It is the issue of certainty. Because he say that, for instance, if you need growth, you need certainty, and if you need the so-called radical transformation, you need growth. So they go together. And if, you are going to continue with this political uncertainty, as it seemed to be, I mean, if the mood inside the room, which I think it was somber for many, many years. I mean, when we are there, you can see that the mood is jovial, except, of course, I mean, the usual headache is of the taxes that we know that will be taxed. But the mood now was somber in a sense that we don't know whether those men who were there in that table, in that front table, are going to be here next week.
Thank you so much, Manalisi. And of course, now what is clear, and this has come out through discussions with Treasury just in the run-up to this budget, is that the budget is actually a law. It's passed by Parliament. So what Manalisi is saying is correct, that even the allocations that are announced by the minister today can be immediately changed by Parliament before that law is passed or altered in future. We just have to get the parliamentarians together. And Treasury has been using that to say, look, don't say that we impose anything on anybody. This is a consultative process. All the departments, all the ministers have to be involved. All right, let's now move to Deborah Tickle, who's from KPMG, a tax expert. Deborah, you focus specifically on corporate tax. We were talking earlier about an investment drought in this country. So do you think that'll make the finance minister very careful to touch corporate tax?
Absolutely, Francis. I think what we have to remember is that before this minister, in his last tenure, he said that for us to achieve the economic transformation that we need in this country, and that means spending money on things like hospitals, security, schooling, universities, we need to grow the tax take, and the only way to do that is to grow the amount of taxes that are available, and that's to grow the economy, as my previous interviewee just said. in order to do that, there needs to be policies. Tax is not the golden bullet, as they say, or the silver bullet. There need to be policies that will enable growth by foreign direct investment and small business. And currently our tax rate in South Africa is quite high. If one looks at the UK, for example, they're currently at 18, moving down the scale down to around about 15. One of our close competitors, Mauritius, has 15%, and even Donald Trump in the US is talking about a 15% tax rate. It would be extremely unwise to increase our tax rate because along with all the policy problems...
We're at 28.
We're at 28%. So along with all the policy issues that are not favourable to investment, and our president did say in his sonar that he thinks we should be making it more friendly, and I totally agree, but along with the unfriendly policies, a higher tax rate would simply make it untenable.
And of course, corporates create jobs. And I want to pick up on something else you're saying. Transformation is really not within in a budget. It's not in the finance minister's hands. Do you agree? And I think he wants to make that clear, that it is about overall budget policy and the way we make decisions, giving businesses that certainty, etc.
Absolutely. I mean, it's as you say, if businesses grow, if there are more small businesses, more large businesses, then there's more employment, there's more PAYE, so businesses pay tax. Employees pay tax. There's a lot of noise here. Typical outside Parliament.
Protests are starting. We'll talk about that, but finish your training.
Yes, so employees tax, company tax, and when people have that money in their pocket, they can go and spend. That means there's more to go and spend on transferring to the poor. There's more for, as I said, hospitals, security. We need the growth in the economy. We need that 5%, and at the moment we're looking at 0.5% for last year, and the minister has a very big problem because we're not looking at much more for 2017. So where is the money going to come from?
Okay, so just to put you in the picture, if you can hear noise around us, it does seem like there's some sort of protest happening just outside of Parliament. We were expecting, for instance, Nahawu has said that it would like to protest the education union. But I hope that our viewers can still hear us, because my final question is, if we don't touch corporate tax, what are you expecting? Many saying that we'll need a range of taxes to plug the hole that we have right now.
No, you're absolutely right. And as we regularly say in the Davies Tax Committee, businesses don't pay taxes, people pay taxes, because ultimately, even if you charge tax to a business, it will get passed on to the people. So the options that he really has is, as you say, a range. We've got the proposed sugar tax, we've got carbon taxes, we've got the special voluntary disclosure programme, which is aimed at collecting back taxes from those who've been hiding offshore. Those will all help, but they're not going to be the big spinner. The big spinners would be potentially VAT, and we know the problem with VAT is that it's politically untenable, but maybe it's the only place he has to go. Alternatively, he may save it for a big ticket expenditure like the NHI. And then finally, it's you and I. We pay taxes when we earn our money standing here every day or doing what we do.
And we're working hard. Let's just clarify that. Thank you so much, Deborah Tickle from KPMG. And we'll cut it there. You can hear that this protest, very peaceful looking at the moment, but it's picking up in volume, and we'll bring you all the action. We'll continue to do that from Parliament. Back to you, Natasha.
Francis, thank you so much. Francis Hurd live from Parliament. And for even more on